Hello, everyone, and welcome. Bienvenue. My name is Natalie Bull. I'm Executive Director of the National Trust for Canada, and I'm pleased to welcome you to this information session about Historic Places Days 2022, Les Journées du Patrimoine. So excited to have you with us. I encourage you, as people are signing on, to say hello to all attendees in the chat. Maybe tell us who you are, where you're participating from, whether you've been part of Historic Places Days in the past. And I'd like to start by acknowledging that I have the privilege of participating from the unceded and unsurrendered territory of the Wolastoqiyik people in New Brunswick. And from my window, I can actually see the beautiful river that they call the Wolastoq on these unsurrendered lands that are still subject to peace and friendship treaties. I know that we're all participating from different parts of the country today, and I would encourage you to join us in acknowledging and respecting the ancestral lands of Indigenous peoples and their cultural and traditional relationships and everything that they've contributed to the richness of the heritage that we all care about in our work. And we definitely know that heritage and history is complicated, and it's been part of privileging certain narratives, and we're all very committed here at the Trust in working with you to make sure that the stories become even more diverse and inclusive. So I want to introduce my colleagues. I'm joined here today by colleagues from the National Trust, Sonia Krutwagen, Kirsten Vermacke, Kirsten Evenden, and Miranda Jimmy. And also from our wonderful partner, Parks Canada, we have Veronique Gagnon, who will be presenting a bit later in the program this morning. Just a few words, if you're new to Historic Places Days, and we hope that some of you are new and excited about joining this year, it's really, in a nutshell, I think it is a platform that's available to you to boost awareness for your historic place. And it's relevant whether you operate a single site that's open to the public or whether you're involved with a group or a network of places across a region. Maybe you're a member of the tourism industry looking for great content and events to share with your audience. Or maybe you're an NGO whose work is about bringing attention and profile to heritage. So no matter what, there's something with Historic Places Days for everyone. And I love the tagline, every place a story, because I think we all know that it's really those stories that bring heritage to life and really help connect people in Canada to our history and to our future. A bit of housekeeping. So this will be an informal session. It's really for you. So feel free to ask as many questions as you like, either using the Q&A function or the chat. On va présenter, je crois que, je ne sais pas si Véronique va présenter un peu en français, mais probablement surtout en anglais. Mais n'hésitez pas de poser les questions dans la langue de votre choix. And we will be sharing a recording and any notes, answers to questions that come up that we're not able to answer live. We'll be sharing with you, I think, within 24 hours after the session. So on the next slide, these are the basics about Historic Places Days this year. So you can see that it's starting on Friday, July 8th. And running for about 3 weeks through the month of July. We've changed the format every year, responding to the pandemic and trying to make sure that we have a big runway that allows you to stretch your legs and be part of Historic Places Days, but not too long, so that we don't lose momentum. So this year we've landed on 3 weeks, and we're excited about participation through that time frame. Historic Places Days happens on the ground, but it also happens really intensely on social media. A great way to get lots of attention. And we'll hear more about that. You can see some of the social media posts here on the screen. And I just also wanted to point out some of the great partners that we've had to guide us through Historic Places Days and to support participation. You can see all those wonderful logos on the screen, including Parks Canada, who is one of our most important partners for this program. On the next slide, I just really wanted to share a few exciting statistics about the growth of this program. So we're now in the 6th year of Historic Places Days, and we've seen just even over last year, from 2020 to 2021, really big jumps in the number of historic places that registered and participated. In the number of events that were hosted, whether they were in person or virtual. And 94% of the sites that have participated have said they would participate again. So I think it's a great testament to the usefulness of this program for the historic places that participate. And I think together we're stronger. So it's an opportunity for us to really build this powerhouse of profile and attention for heritage and historic places across the country. So we're excited about 2022. On the next slide, we wanted to share a little bit of the feedback that we've received from past participating sites. And again, I think these quotes really tell a story about how sites can benefit. Basically, Historic Places Days offers free advertising for your historic place. And it's a way for you to keep your site in the public eye, even if restrictions make it impossible for you to be open to the public. Hopefully that won't be the case this year. And it's really an opportunity to reach Canadians and potential visitors through social media. It's also for the public, and I think on the next slide we've heard from participants who've really gotten into the spirit of Historic Places Days and gotten to know the places in their communities. And we love all of the sites that participate, but we're especially pleased to see more and more sites that are attracting people from all walks of life and telling stories that reflect the diverse experiences of Canada, and bringing historically excluded voices and places and people to the forefront. It's really an exciting and an important time in our history as we move together along a path of reconciliation and inclusion. And last year, as we were just about to launch Historic Places Days, you'll all remember the discovery of unmarked graves at former residential schools, and it really brought a different mood, I think. In what we had previously focused on as the celebration of Historic Places Days, I think we really shifted to recognize the power of Historic Places Days as an opportunity to really be a gateway to important and essential conversations about the past of our country and our people and the future. The Trust has lots to learn about reconciliation and inclusion and diversity, and we're so pleased to have Miranda Jimmy, who's recently joined our team as our Manager of Reconciliation, Diversity and Inclusion. So she's really helping transform the Trust perspective and the way that we act. And she will be on board to help advise us through this year's delivery of Historic Places Days. And I certainly encourage you all to check out Miranda's recent webinar that she led for the National Trust, and maybe one of my colleagues can share the link in the chat, called Reconciliation in Heritage. So great, if you haven't already seen it, a great way to get some advice and some thoughts about how to approach your own journey in reconciliation. Historic Places Days, this slide talks a little bit about the National Trust and also our partner, Parks Canada. Historic Places Days is becoming a more and more important part of the suite of programs that we offer at the Trust, all geared to strengthening the vitality of historic places and the heritage movement. Programs like Launchpad and Regeneration Works and our national conference and our webinars. And so this is an event with Historic Places Days that really does focus on places open to the public. We are so appreciative of our longstanding partnership with Parks Canada on many fronts, and especially with this program. It really is the perfect marriage, I think, because both of our organizations are dedicated to safeguarding and sharing historic places and their stories, and to using historic places to really reflect the diversity of our country. So that's a good moment to hand it over to Véronique Gagnon from National Celebrations and Commemorations at Parks Canada to say a few words from Parks Canada's perspective. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Natalie. Merci. Bonjour à tout le monde. Thanks again for inviting us to be part of this webinar. Parks Canada has been part of this event for 6 years, as you've mentioned, and it's always great to be part of sort of that larger family. Parks Canada does manage, many of the National Historic Sites across the country, and we make a point to make sure that all of them are registered on the site for Historic Places Days. Obviously, with the pandemic, there's been some changes, I'm sure, like every other site across the country. Last year, we can say that there was a renewed interest because we did create more of a virtual offer, and that was a little bit different. So attendance was a bit higher than perhaps in 2020, and we're really hoping that 2022 will sort of bring levels that are closer to what we saw before the pandemic. So still a bit lower last year, but really hoping to have some new engagement this year. So what we do here at Parks Canada to help our different sites participate in this event is that at National Office, we create a toolkit that helps our sites participate. We create some key messages that relate to Historic Places Day event, question and answers that they might get, why this is important, why it speaks to Canadians, a social media plan also that they can adapt to their different locations, and also a video that we had done, I think, from the very first year when the first Historic Places Day was put on, and we are actually happy to report that we are right now creating a new video that we will be able to share on all of our platforms. And we'll also be able to share it with the larger historic site family. So if anybody would like to use it, it's going to be a little bit shorter than what's been done in the past, if you have seen the earlier versions of the video. So probably less than a minute, really conducive for using on social media platforms, and a little bit more splashy and a little bit more dynamic perhaps than what we've done in the past. So we're looking forward to sharing the final product with everyone. So I also wanted to add on the next slide, just a few of some of the things that we've heard, from people, from some of the visitors that have come to different historic National Historic Places. It's part of a survey that we do. Our social sciences branch takes care of that for us at Parks Canada. And it is a voluntary feedback, what motivated your visit and why is this place important to you? So this is just a little sample of, what was said and what people are experiencing and feeling when they come and visit not only the Parks Canada National Historic Sites, but I'm sure any historic place or historic site that is across the country. So really just some nice quotes that I just wanted to share with you guys and sort of inspired to see that, the historic places have a definite effect on the Canadians. So that's it for us. Merci encore de l'invitation. Je vais maintenant passer la parole à Sonia.
Thank you, Véronique, and thank you for being here and talking about we're excited about the video, what it's going to be this year. With this slide, I wanted to recap or dive into some of the specifics for this year. So as Natalie had mentioned, is actually starting on a Friday this year, July 8th. But the launch weekend will be, so 8, 9, and 10. We're launching with events and hopefully a lot of social media messaging from everybody to start off Historic Places Days that will run for the month of July. And the entire month will give everybody an opportunity to host events that work for their schedule, to be able to get their community involved in participating in the selfie contest. So yes, we're hosting the selfie contest this year, and it will be running for the month of July. So that creates a lot of awareness for historic places across the country on social media. We're using the hashtag Historic Places Days. And we run a little giveaway program for the month of June to ramp up the communication about Historic Places Days before the launch weekend. You saw some of the partners early on that we give out prizes and ask people to share about, with photographs and paragraphs, what they love about different historic places across the country. And you can see there, it's all on a platform, and the address is historicplacesdays.ca. I wanted to talk a little bit about what happened last year to give some context and what we're hoping for this year. So with all of us communicating on social media at the same time, we were able to reach 2 million Canadians, which is fantastic. It shines a spotlight on these historic places all at the same time, and it's everybody communicating together that creates awareness. for historic places in Canada. There were 579 places to visit that were registered for the event, and we're hoping for even more this year. And as Natalie had mentioned, or I can't remember if that was last year's stat, 94% of places that participated said that they were excited to participate again this year. So that makes us feel good and continue the program with some of the tools that we used. One thing that happened last year, and it's something that we want to talk about, as we discussed at the beginning of our chat today, the Trust believes in diversity, and that diversity means inclusion and reflection of all people, including cultures, languages, and perspectives. So join us on this journey to do our part to support reconciliation with Indigenous peoples and find ways to serve more underrepresented communities in our work to protect and celebrate diverse heritage places from coast to coast to coast. With feedback from participants and advisors, we are changing the official name of the celebration from Canada Historic Places Days to Historic Places Days. There was confusion with the official title of the event, and it was often interpreted as Canada's Historic Places Days. And this doesn't feel inclusive, and actually feels exclusive for many historic sites. With this name change, we would like to signal that we respect everyone's perspectives, and together we will share the diverse stories that make historic places come alive. In practicality, many of the elements we use to communicate about the event remain the same. The logo, the website, and the hashtag all say Historic Places Days. So at least that'll limit the confusion. But it's a significant, it's interesting, it'll be good to be communicating with everybody and for everybody about diverse stories in Canada. At this point, I am going to hand it over to Kirsten Vermacke to talk about events for Historic Places Days.
Thanks, Sonia. Events are an important part of Historic Places Days. So it's an opportunity to plan events both in person and online. This year, because of the continuing pandemic, we're continuing virtual features we added in the last 2 years to the celebration. So the selfie contest, which usually used to run just on the first day itself, is extended to the entire month of July. There will be an online tool on the website to take selfies and superimpose your own photo in front of photos of places maybe you've never seen before and places across the country. And we'll be encouraging visitors to take creative selfies and post them on social media. We had some fantastic uptake last year and a lot of really fun creative selfies. We will continue to work with social media influencers to bring attention to the nationwide event. And we encourage you to find creators in your region who post about tourism, community events, or hidden gems to bring attention to your historic places content. So whatever sort of stories you're telling at your historic site, there is someone in your region posting about it, so make friends with them. Events are an important part of the month-long celebration, and we realize that many of the events you have planned happen over the course of multiple days. So our website will also reflect that from this year moving forward. Next slide. So events are a fantastic way to share your historic place with a very wide audience, beginning with Historic Places Launch Day events. If you're open to putting something online specifically for July 8th, that would be fantastic. And we would love for you to contact us and we'll share it on our website. Events are an important part of sharing your vision of how you want your place to be seen and experienced. July 8th, being launch day, we would love you to host a virtual event, but what does that exactly look like? And it might be a little different for some of you experiencing reopening phases, or if you're planning on being closed that day, or even some of the summer. We're being very flexible these last few summers with whether or not we're open in person. And visitation is changing everywhere across the country, just week by week. So there are many ways that you can participate. So on this slide, we have two examples, the one on the left from Mackin House in BC and the one on the right is from Black Creek Village in Ontario. The one in BC is a walking tour with pre-registration and social distancing, and the other is an interview and hands-on learning session with a local gardener. People like events that are behind the scenes, something they may not necessarily see if they visit your site in person. We have these on the website under Launch Day 2020, and there are still several examples from last year. And our YouTube channel still has many examples of the events that we hosted. Next slide. So we feature our events on a special page on the Historic Places Day website, including a separate schedule of all the events on launch weekend that everyone from across the country can participate in. So you register your events on the Historic Places website, and then we feature them on this page. This is something that we can help you with and that will be explained in some of the tools that we'll be publishing as well. Live events are a great opportunity to tell new stories or bring in different partners to tell their stories about your place. With an influx of summer students, this could create the capacity for a new dialogue with local Black history societies, Indigenous partners, immigrant diaspora communities, local interest groups or artisans or crafters, and students. For example, these are two great examples from last summer. Lang Pioneer Village in Ontario on the left took advantage of our events listings to announce their new partnership and an incredible new interpretive video, Abamagon, telling a fuller story of their area, including the Indigenous experience of the pioneer arrival and colonial land settlement. We also shared a live interactive tour of the Ukrainian Cultural Heritage Village in Alberta, with the audience able to ask questions in regular time and have them answered on site by costume interpreters through Instagram Live. And that was a lot of fun. Next slide. So some of the popular video hostings, again, kind of technical and platforms that are out there are included in this slide. It depends on where your largest audience would be, where you might want to share this content. You can create a Zoom event with registration and share the link through your various communications channels. Instagram Live and Facebook Live are great options to bring your historic place to a wider audience immediately. If you don't want to host a live event, you could also use YouTube to share on those platforms and create content to keep sharing in the future. So there are lots of fun ways to get involved. So a little bit more about the different tools that exist on the website for you to tell a wider story of your place. Sonia will continue with discussion about the website.
Thank you, Kirsten. So I wanted for you who haven't, for anybody who hasn't participated, this is what a page for a site looks like on Historic Places Day website. And these are the basic elements of a page that you can contribute. Lots of graphics, your opening hours, your social media channels, a description, what the amenities are for your place. It's an easy registration process. I did want to point out one thing that was added last year that may not have been obvious to people. There's this new section called Fun Facts, and it is a separate section that is on each page, and if you choose to submit it. And it's a really nice way for people to engage with your site. It's also something that people can use as a treasure hunt, hopefully in the future, going through fun facts for different places. So we hope that you update your listing to include these fun facts as some additional, another way, a different perspective of being able to interact with your site. As Kirsten also mentioned, we have tools that we are free. They're all free tools that are available that'll help you during this campaign. There's a social media toolkit, which will be available on June 1st. And this year it's new, we're going to be incorporating suggested weekly themes into the social media toolkit, which will allow everybody to amplify a similar kind of message during the month-long campaign. And I'm very excited to see how this will come to life this year, and interested in the different aspects of stories that people will tell with those themes. We discussed already a video, there's a poster, we'll have some webinars coming up, and there's the website that we've already talked about that uses geo-positioning for people to be able to find historic places near where they are standing at the moment. It's a very useful tool, and we know that people have found, we've heard stories, lots of stories of people being found through the website in this new way. I wanted to reiterate, I'm not sure we've talked about all the different ways of why you would want to get involved. The campaign allows you to be found by national and international people, and also local. You may think that your local audience knows you, but there are people out there who haven't found you yet, and this is one way that they can find you. It's a great way to announce the events for people to find them, and it'll give you an additional boost to the events that you post on the website itself. Taking part in the selfie contest gives you a chance to win $1,000 and gives a reason for your supporters to be communicating about your place. They can win $1,000 too. There's the free social media toolkit that we've talked about that'll have content ideas and content for the month of July that you can use. There are over 600 places registered to the website. So now it has become a place that heritage lovers can find historic places when they travel or in their own neighborhood. The website is live all year round and can be used as a way for people to find you. And last but not least, it's free. All of these tools are free. The website is free. It just takes a short amount of time to register your site to the website. Now I'm going to hand off our presentation to Kirsten, sorry, talking about the participation of Lougheed House in the event.
Hello, everyone. Bonjour. I'm coming to you from Mohintys, which is Calgary. I formerly worked at the Lougheed House. I ran the Lougheed House, and so was asked to share today a few ideas about how Lougheed House National and Provincial Historic Site considered its programming in terms of trying to widen access to the stories that were being shared, and a lot of discussion today about diversity. And what I'm excited about working for the National Trust is hearing from all of you. We have a diversity of geography. We have a diversity of regional experiences, cultural experiences, some regional perspectives and differing narratives about how we interpret history. And this is an opportunity to explore some of those different aspects of some of the standard narratives that we tell in Canadian history. You are all very knowledgeable about the narratives and the stories that you share based on place, time, and the sites that you're responsible for. And we look forward to being able to amplify those conversations and would love the opportunity to connect with you to really explore some of those sometimes lesser known stories, which are often stories of resilience. And these are some challenging narratives that we're exploring in Canadian history now. And the Lougheed House took some time over the last several years to really try and pull apart some of the histories it represented, a settler colonial narrative, really to try and tease out what were the various aspects or layers of those histories or stories about Calgary that the House represented that were actually quite divergent from a settler perspective. So on the next slide, you can see Lougheed House is an 1890s mansion based right in the center of Calgary, a very central neighborhood in the city, and so serves a diverse group of neighborhoods and audiences right in the center of town. And the site has many stories to tell. And one of the things that I know a lot of historic sites are thinking about right now is who is telling those stories? What are the stories and who is telling those stories? And so inviting different kinds of community experts, elders, community groups to come in and try and tease apart some of those standard narratives is something that I think is really exciting. And I look forward to seeing how all of you are doing that this summer. Just a couple of highlights from the experiences we had at the Lougheed House. The Lougheed House is now called a Métis household. For those who may know Peter Lougheed, the Premier of Alberta, very well known in Canada, these were his paternal grandparents. Isabella Hardesty Lougheed of Métis descent, and also James Lougheed himself, originally from Toronto, but a settler in Calgary. very much a settler story in Canada. The idea of this early mixed marriage. She herself really was quite well known in the city as a community builder, and the site has continued to work in that vein. And so has done exhibitions with the Métis community, the Métis Nation of Alberta, collaborating on issues of Métis identity, which are shifting and complex sometimes. The house has also explored who worked at the house. Do we know anything about the people who worked at the house? Not those who built it, but those who actually helped it run, helped it exist. Last summer, we worked with artists in the community of Chinese descent, writers, who helped to describe a story that's not often in the archival record, which is the story of early immigrants to Calgary of Chinese descent and some of their stories of resilience. That was an exhibition called We Were Here. And then we've also done a lot of programming a couple of years ago with the queer community in the city. The Lougheed House is situated right in a very significant queer historical neighborhood for the city and looms large in some of those stories, some of which still are in boxes and garages and have not made it to the archival record yet. And so a historic place that can help to showcase and amplify some of these different stories of the city is something that I think is terribly exciting. And I look forward to seeing how you are interpreting your sites and some of these varying regional narratives and stories this coming year. Thanks so much for being a part of this today.
Great, thanks. What a great presentation from the team. So we're here to take questions. We've got a bit more time before we end on the hour. And maybe while we're waiting for questions to come in on the chat or the Q&A, we can just go ahead and look at the membership offer from the National Trust. Lots of great comments about the Trust in the chat. We appreciate that and we appreciate you. If you're not already a member, consider joining. And we're really excited about a new offer that's part of membership now. We call it a year of learning, and it's 24/7, whenever you're ready. We have resources available for you online on everything from diversity and inclusion to climate change to fundraising. So consider joining, and there's actually a discount if you join using that code that you can see on the screen, new member. And then jump ahead maybe to the next slide about regeneration work. So lots of resources available for free, whether you're a member or not, at regenerationworks.ca, and consider signing up for our newsletter so that you'll never miss any of our offerings or webinars coming up. So let's hear your questions. So maybe everyone answered all the questions in advance. So a question about weekly themes.
We're open to ideas on the weekly themes. One of the things we were thinking maybe about family, or we know a lot of places post selfies with staff selfies, and it's always interesting to hear a little story of behind the scenes. If you have any other suggestions, let us know, or we can talk about it now. We just thought it would be a really good idea to have some more ideas of what to post during the month long and to be sharing at the same time. So it's a really good question about places that are not place-based. And it is a part of the Historic Places Day that it is the way it works is place-based, but you can choose a place to use as your advocacy or the story that you want to tell about a place, and it continue to work that way. There are other examples. I can send you specifically an email. If you share your email, I can send you some examples of places that have used it. One of the examples is Japanese internment sites on the West Coast, and there's a visit list that they use to tell the story. It's quite interesting.
Great. And I'll just jump in. Welcome to the new staff member at the Heritage Trust of Nova Scotia. We're looking forward to working with you. And I think that the trust, the Nova Scotia Trust can certainly play a role in just amplifying the volume of activity on social media around Historic Places Day. So retweeting and sharing and being part of, in the same way that the National Trust works, to just get that information out there to as many members of the general public as we can.
Kirsten, do you want to go ahead?
Sure, I was just going to respond as well. You know, place is really about story. It's a way to kind of tell stories. So I think if you are thinking about places in a broader sense, it's really about storytelling. And so I would feel very comfortable sharing stories about sites, or sharing those really significant, interesting stories that maybe not a lot of Canadians know about.
Great. Thank you, Emma, for your email. And we'll start a conversation. That's great. More conversations?
Sonia, did you want to say anything about a follow-up session like this, what you have planned for later, closer to the event?
Yes, we've traditionally done an event that talks more about the tools and the upcoming webinars. The reason I've hesitated is because we don't have nailed down a date, but we will have a follow-up information session that talks more specifically, and probably will walk through the themes that we're thinking for this year. So if you weren't on the newsletter list for Historic Places Days, please add your name and you will be informed of the second information session.
There's a question about hashtags. Are you, those will all be on the website and in the newsletters. Did anyone on the team want to say more about hashtags?
We are using the same hashtag as last year, and yes, it's Historic Places Days, the plural, and it is very, we hope everybody uses that hashtag in their communication. It's a way for everybody to see the stories that are going on in social media. I think in the past we have used a different hashtag to amplify, but this year we're only going to be using one. Kirsten, do you want to add anything to that? No, okay.
No, I think it's handy that the hashtags are actually in the logo. So all of the promotional materials have the hashtags, both English and French, in our colors of pink and blue. So they're easy to keep track of.
We've got a great question about what is a historic place? What kinds of places can participate? Does it need to be registered at all? It's really for whatever communities think a historic place is. So Sonia, did you want to say more about the kinds of places that are welcome to participate?
Yes, we are. It's been, we're very welcoming. We hope that every place that tells the story of it, an older story of their place, feels welcome. So we're interested in restaurants and businesses, national historic sites, the whole range of sites, so we can tell the story of the historic places from coast to coast to coast. The only thing is that we hope, or we ask that you are open to the public. So this is a program that helps the public know about historic places, so they need to be able to visit the place and find out more about the place itself. Great question.
Great. Well, do we want to wrap it up there? And we'll be sending out a follow-up email tomorrow and with links and email addresses if you have any additional questions as Historic Places Days rolls towards us. So I want to thank the team today, and especially thank Parks Canada, Véronique Gagnon, for being part of this information session today. And we look forward to your participation in Historic Places Days 2022. À la prochaine. Merci.
Thank you, everybody, for coming today.
Bye-bye.